What's up? I'm Nivo. Sorry it's been a minute, but I've been busy with work. Found a few minutes, so I'm going to make a quick video. You'll notice I got some new gear here. I might review it if I feel like it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. We'll see. This video is about judging headphones and the biggest mistakes I see people make and some of the good things I see people doing with judging headphones. Why is that important? I think mainly because we want to figure out what headphone is actually better, or there's something in the chain is actually better than something else. Let's start with my biggest pet peeve. My biggest pet peeve is when people talk about a headphone as if they've heard it without hearing it yet. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? I don't have a clue. I don't understand that. If you haven't heard it and you're going to talk about it, at least say some disclaimer. Or, if you heard it from someone else, say who the other person was that said something. You don't want to act like you were the one that heard it. If you're going to cause a lot of misinformation. So try not to do that. That's definitely my biggest pet peeve, and I see it fairly often, surprisingly. All right, so the next thing is ownership bias. And this one makes a little bit more sense on why people do it. You have heard it, you do own it, you're excited about it, it's better than the last thing you've heard, and you just tell everybody that it's amazing. Well, since it's the best thing you've heard, you don't know how much better things can get, and very likely headphones can get a lot better than the best thing you've heard so far. So headphones can scale extremely far, cost a lot of money usually, but just know that, if you have like a $400 headphone, it's probably not the best thing. Okay. So try to give a frame of reference and use an audiophile glossary to try to describe the sound differences between the two headphones. The reason for this is if you try to make your own word like whimsical or, some weird words, people like to sound, I'll say snobby, that's why, there's reasons why we get all these stereotypes because we sound like that. So if you use the audiophile glossary, the whole point is that both sides can read the definitions of the audiophile glossary and understand what it means. And then it's easier to know what you're talking about. If you try to make some weird words up, it can get, one side could think they know what you're talking about and you're actually talking about something completely different. So that's why it's important to use the right words. The next thing I'll say is sort of a mistake is someone will say something like HD800 is terrible. Okay, well, let's talk about what chain you heard HD800 on. So I think mentioning the chain is important. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. I also think HD800 is terrible on like a shit stack, which is a shit Modi, shit Magni. I think the treble's really glary and it's just not easy to listen to. But if you put it on a really good chain, it actually sounds quite nice. Of course, everything is relative to everything else, right? So if you're going to say it's terrible, say compared to what and on what chain. All right, so letter grades. If you're going to use a letter grade system, the first thing I'll say is try to disclose what your S plus is, because you want to the best thing you've heard. What was the best thing you've heard? And if that's your S plus, then disclose it. Here's an example of myself making this mistake. This is like, 5 years old or something. And sorry, the penmanship's so bad, but I wasn't expecting to make a video 5 years ago. So this is a bunch of headphones, and these are on different chains. This is Terminator plus HDV820. This is Aries 2 and 430HA. There's a lot of the same headphones. And this is Pontus and 430HA. And I used to judge it based on overall believability as my main score. Bass impact, I did it 1 through 10, 5 being what I thought bass should be. And anything above that would be more bass than I would expect, and less is less bass than I expect. Detail, this turned out to be really hard to judge, and there's reasons for that. Different headphones present detail a little bit differently. It gets really confusing, trust me, if you're trying to go through a bunch of chains and a bunch of headphones and trying to judge detail. There's little tricks that headphones do to make it seem like it has more detail, such as like HD 600 versus Edition XS. XX actually has more detail, but HD 600 kind of smooths over the detail, which makes it seem more full sounding and more detailed, but it's actually not. That's just an example. And yeah, the detail also you would need to disclose your S plus for, because it also goes very high. And these letters now, my S here was for HD 800. There's no way I would give HD 800 a S today. I've heard far more detail now. So I used to judge soundstage, and the way I did it back then was just on the sheer size of it and how far it was away. I think about soundstage differently today. You might have noticed from my other videos, I try to judge soundstage based on the different shapes of how it comes in front of you, a star shape. There's even a Batman shape like the HE 1000 B2 on certain chains. And just wide left to right or inside your head, all these different. So I try to judge things a little differently now. I don't know anyone else that's doing that, but I just decided to start doing it because that's how I hear headphones. Keep in mind, soundstage is very subjective. It's going to be different from person to person. You should disclose your chains also. And if you find someone that is describing it the same way as you, well, congratulations. Follow that person, because they know they might have very similar ears to you. I've heard people say that HD 100 only stages behind their head. And for me, it's definitely in front of my head for sure. So there's huge differences on that. Tonality, I think people perceive this the same. I don't know. I guess there's people with hearing loss. I don't know, but I used to judge emo, which was emotion, also highly subjective. What I found for myself where emotion was coming through the most for me was when the mid bass was impactful and, strong, and that kind of blended into the mids. And there's also some air frequencies like 15 kilohertz. All of that combined, to me, translated to emotion. But keep in mind, everyone's going to be different with the emotion. So I just stopped judging that. I just judge it for myself. There's some people that obviously don't have any emotion at all. Those are called psychopaths, and they exist in this hobby too. There's like 5% or something like that in America or in the whole planet. So all sorts of different people out there, lots of subjectivity. And I used to judge by comfort and gaming as well. So gaming, this is why I got into the hobby. I'm a semi-pro to pro esports gamer, first-person shooters. So that's how I started getting into the hobby. Now, one of the big problems with all this is it gets really complicated judging all of this stuff, and it takes a long time, and no one wants to do all this. So I'm really glad that Critical broke down the judging system to tonality versus technicality. This is probably the most ingenious thing I've seen. It sounds so simple, and it is, but it really helps everyone kind of understand. If there's generally two types of people in the hobby, and that's why it was so brilliant to break it down to that. You're generally either more tonally sensitive or more technically sensitive. I am very much so more of a technicality audiophile. So if you are too, you probably want to follow me. And if things stage the same way as they do on my head as yours, then you probably definitely want to follow me. If not, if you're a tonality person, then follow someone else. I hear tonality, I just don't care about it as much. It doesn't bother me if it's a little bit off in most cases. The technical side is what really impresses me and gets me excited about the hobby. So finding out which you are, tonality or technicality, my suggestion to you would be to go to an audiophile store if you can, because it's free, and go try this stuff on. Try different headphones and different chains, and just take note of what you think is the most important to you. Is it the way the piano sounds? Is it the way the drum sounds? Is it the distance that the instruments sound from you? Is it the direction that the instruments are for you? Do you want them actually intimate, closer to your head? What, try to pay attention to that. That'll help you determine what you actually are. So yeah, demo it in the store. Oh, another thing that really, really irritates me is tier lists ranked by price. And I've seen quite a few, I'm not going to name any names, reviewers use tier list ranked by price, like a price to sound quality ratio. That doesn't make any sense at all. Think about it. Like, there's people making really high salaries and some people who are not. So it doesn't make, I just don't get it. Just judge it based on how good the sound of the device is. And that way it makes it easier to compare to another device. You're going to confuse the heck out of everybody if you try to rate it by price. Let people decide on their own what they want to buy. Okay? Yeah. I could say some mean stuff, but I won't. Okay, another thing that people do is it's comfort deception. So if you're, I kind of understand this because people will judge a headphone as being better, but they're really feeling the quality of the pads and then the way it fits on their head. And I think they're paying less attention to the actual sound. So this happens fairly often, I think. So just try to be aware, you're not a bad guy if you've done this. I think comfort can be very important. Just keep in mind that you are trying to listen for the actual sound when you're judging the headphone, and you can mention the comfort. Another thing I see a lot is a new product comes out. Everybody hypes it for like 3, 4 months, 5 months. Man, this happens all the time, especially in the IEM community. Happens a lot. But I've also seen it on high-end headphones, and I don't know how it happens. I've tried some of the gear myself. I don't know if I want to name the names or not. Sure, like LCD5. Wow, it was hyped up a lot when it came out. Or Empyrean Elite. Both of those were hyped up a lot. And man, they're not even, to me, they're just not even high-end headphones. They're priced high, but I just try to judge the actual sound of the headphone. So I guess that's a price deception thing, really. And also maybe comfort for like the Empyrean. It's comfortable. It just, if you listen to it, it just doesn't compete with any of the high-end headphones. All right, so yeah. I guess one more thing. People ask me, they ask everybody, not just me, is something worth it? Is this worth this? Is this worth that? I don't know. Is it worth it to you? I don't know. I can't tell you. That's completely, I don't know your monthly income. I don't know. I can't tell you how much if it's worth it or not. I don't know what that even means. If you have the money, is it better? Yes. That's kind of a gray area. I can tell you something is a little bit better, 5% better, and then you can decide if it's worth it to you. So, I don't want to get people confused in this hobby. I'm not trying to get you to buy, the craziest thing and you have to sacrifice your car or, live in I don't know, on the streets. I don't know. But, anyways, you kind of get where I'm going with that. I guess that's all I'm going to say. So good luck, everyone. It's crazy out there. All right. See you guys later.